Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to continue with the past questions. Let's go straight to it. Number 21 is the next one. Express 1 all over 1 minus sine 45 degrees in short form. Sine 45 is for the sine, cosine and tangent of angle 45 degrees. Just remember this: right angled isosceles triangle, each of the equal lengths is 1 unit, and that simply means the hypotenuse will be root 2. So this is 45 degrees and this is also 45 degrees. You can use any of the angles 45 degrees. So sine 45 means 1 all over root 2. So 1 over 1 minus sine 45 is the same as 1 divided by 1 minus 1 all over root 2, and that's the same as 1 divided by root 2 minus 1 over root 2, which simply means 1 times root 2 over root 2 minus 1, which is root 2 all over root 2 minus 1. And now this is the same as we rationalize by multiplying the numerator and denominator by the conjugate of the denominator. The conjugate of the denominator is root 2 plus 1. So now this means root 2 times root 2 plus 1 is the same as 2 plus root 2. Root 2 times root 2 is root 4, which is 2, and root 2 times 1 is root 2. Root 2 minus 1 times root 2 plus 1 is the same as 1. When you expand that, you're actually going to get 2 minus 1, which is 1. So the answer is 2 plus root 2. Maybe we should check that. Root 2 minus 1 times root 2 plus 1. That root 2 times root 2 is root 4, which is 2, plus root 2 times 1, which is root 2. And now minus 1 times root 2 is minus root 2. And minus 1 times 1 is minus 1. So that means root 2 minus root 2 is 0. And 2 minus 1 is 1. So that's correct. And we go to the next, which is 22. If 4x 5 3 equals 32, that's the determinant. Find the value of x. What do? We multiply this by this and subtract this times this from it. So that means 4 times 3, 12, minus 5 times x equals 5x. And that 12x minus 5x equals 32, which simply means minus 5x equals 32 minus 12. And that means 5 minus 5x equals 20, which means x equals minus 4 when we divide both sides by minus 5. Now to the next, number 23. If events A and B are independent and the probability of A is 7 over 12, while the probability of A intersection B is 1 over 4. Find the probability of B. The probability of B says the two events are independent is the same as the probability of A and B occurring divided by the probability of A, which is 1 over 4 divided by 7 over 12, and this is the same as 3 over 7. 1 over 4 divided by 7 over 12 is the same as 1 over 4 times 12 over 7, and that's 3 over 7. So to the next, number 24. given that AB equals 5I plus 3J and AC equals 2I plus 5J, find BC. We can do this. Let this be AB, which is 5I plus 3J, and let this be AC, AB, AC, and that's 2I plus 5J. Now we want to find BC. We want to find BC, and that's in this direction. BC is the same as BA plus AC. BC is the same as BA plus AC. That's what it means. So that's the same as minus AB. BA is the opposite of AB, so it's going to be minus AB plus AC, which simply means minus into bracket 5I plus 3J plus 12I plus 5J, and that means minus 5I minus 3J. When we open the bracket, that's what we have, plus 2I plus 5J. Minus 5I plus 2I is minus 3I. Minus 3J plus 5J is plus 2J. And the next is, so therefore BC is minus 3I plus 2J. And the next one is number 25. The probabilities of Jide, Atu, and Obu solving a given problem are 1 over 12, 1 over 6, and 1 over 8 respectively. Calculate the probability that only one of them solves the problem. Probability of Jide solving it is 1 over 12. Probability of Atu solving it is 1 over 6. And the probability of Obu solving it is 1 over 8. The probability that only one of them solves it is the same as only one of them. Probability that only one of them solves the problem is the same as the probability that only Jide solves it, which is 1 over 12 times the probability that Atu doesn't solve it, and that's 1 minus the probability that Atu solves it, which is 1 minus 1 over 6 times the probability that Obu doesn't solve it, and that's 1 minus 1 over 8, which is 7 over 8, plus, let me put that here, the probability that only Atu solves it, that's the probability that Jide doesn't solve it, which is 1 minus the probability that Jide solves it, and that's 1 minus 1 over 12, which is 11 over 12, times the probability that only Atu solves it, multiplied by the probability that Obu also doesn't solve it, which is 1 minus 1 over 8, and that's 7 over 8, plus the probability that only Obu solves it. That means Jide doesn't solve it, and Jide and Atu don't solve it. The probability that Atu doesn't solve it is 5 over 6, and the probability that Obu solves it is 1 over 8. So that's equal to, so what we're doing here is the probability that only one of them solves the problem is the probability that only Jide solves it, or only Atu solves it, or only Obu solves it. So the probability that only Jide solves a problem will be 1 over 12 multiplied by the probability that Atu doesn't solve it and the probability that Obu doesn't solve it. And we know that the probability that Atu doesn't solve it is 1 minus the probability that Atu solves it. And the probability that Obu doesn't solve it is 1 minus the probability that Obu solves it. So that's how we obtain that. And that simply means 35 over 576 plus 77 over 576 plus 55 over 576, which is 167 over 576, and that's the probability that only one of them solves the problem. Now to the next, which is number 26. Two forces F1 equals 10 newtons. 10 newtons, 20 degrees. F2 and F2 equals 7 newtons, 200 degrees act on a particle. Find the resultant force. Okay, the options show that the resultant is given as in magnitude and direction form. So okay, let's go this way. Let's have a sketch here. Let this be the horizontal axis and this is vertical. F1, which is acting at angle 20 degrees. This is F1. Force F1, which is 10 newtons. And it acts at angle 20 degrees. So this is 20 degrees. Now if that's 20 degrees, that simply means this is 70 degrees. That's F1, and F2 acts at angle 200 degrees and it's 7 newtons. So that goes this way. 200 degrees is somewhere around here. I can put that here. That's 200 degrees. F2 equals 200 degrees. F2, which is 7 newtons, acts at angle 200 degrees. So this is going to be 20 degrees. 180 plus 20 is 200. If that's 20, this will also be 70 degrees. Now we need to find the horizontal and vertical components of the forces. Let me make this a little longer. Now this is the horizontal component of F1. I want to call it F1x, and this is its vertical component. I'm calling it F1y. This is the horizontal component of F2. That's going to be negative because it's in the negative x-axis, and I'm calling it F2x, while its vertical component is also going to be negative because it's also in the negative y-axis. So that will be F minus F2y, and its horizontal component is minus F2x. I'm putting the signs so I don't forget that they are supposed to be negative. Now F1x cos 70 degrees equals adjacent, which is F1x over hypotenuse over 10, and that simply means F1x equals 10 cos 70 degrees, and F1y equals, that's the vertical component of F1, that I know that sine 70 degrees Let's go this way. Sine 70 degrees equals f1y over 10. That's opposite over hypotenuse. f1y. Let me bring the diagram down. Paste it here. That's a diagram. So this is the diagram. Now sine 70 degrees equals f1y over 10, which simply means f1y. I need to move the diagram down. So which means f1y, which is the vertical component of the force F1, is the same as 10 sine 70 degrees. Sine 70 degrees. Now the horizontal component of the force F2, which is minus F2x, is the same as cos 70 degrees is adjacent over hypotenuse. That's minus F2x over 7, and that's the same as 7 cos 70 degrees. So that simply means F2x is going to be minus 7 cos 70 degrees, and its vertical component is the same as F2y, which is minus F1. This is F2y, which is minus F2y over 7. That's sine 70 degrees. Minus F2y is going to be, of course I know that sine 70 degrees here is the same as minus F2y over 7. That's opposite over hypotenuse. So that simply means F2y is minus 7 sine, let's say sine 70 degrees is minus F2y over 7. So that means minus F2y is the same as 7 sine 70 degrees, and F2y will be minus 7 sine 70 degrees. So you can take this out. That simply means the resultant, which is the sum of horizontal component of forces. That simply means the sum of horizontal component of forces is 10 cos 70 plus, that's minus 7 cos 70 degrees, and that, so we are adding the horizontal component of force F1 to the horizontal component of the force F2. So that's 10 cos 70 minus 7 cos 70. 10 cos 70 minus 7 cos 70, and that's the same as 1.026 newtons. Now the sum of vertical components of forces, which is F1y plus F2y, is going to be 10 sine 70 degrees plus minus 7 sine 70 degrees, which is minus 7 sine 70 degrees. and that's the same as 10 sine 70 minus 7 sine 70. 10 sine 70 degrees minus 7 sine 70 degrees, and that's 2.819 newtons. So R is therefore the resultant. R is therefore the square root of summation fx squared plus summation fy squared, which is the square root of 1.026 plus 1.026 squared plus 2.819 squared, and that simply means 1.026 squared plus 2.819 squared, and we find the square root of our answer, and that simply means 2.999, which is approximately 3 newtons. Now we need to find the direction of the resultant. This is the resultant, but we need to find its direction. So let me have a simple sketch here. Now if this is the resultant, R, this is going to be its vertical component, while this is its horizontal component. Its vertical component is the sum of vertical components of forces, while its horizontal component is the sum of horizontal components of forces, and this is its direction. This angle is its direction. Let me call it alpha. So if I find this, let's call this theta, I'll be able to find alpha. Tan theta is the same as summation fy over summation fx, which is sum of vertical components of forces is 2.819. That's 2.819 over sum of horizontal components of forces, that's 1.026, and that simply means theta equals tan inverse of 2.819 over 1.026, and that's 70 degrees. Therefore alpha equals 90 minus 70 degrees, which is 20 degrees. So therefore the resultant is 3 newtons or 20 degrees. We need not to forget that theta is not the direction of the resultant. The resultant is read from here to where it is, and that's why it's all 20 degrees. Is the angle from the north this way to the resultant, which is represented by alpha in the diagram. So to the next very quickly, number 27. The table below shows the distribution of marks by some candidates in a test. Use this information to answer questions 27 to 29. 27 says, what is the median score? Median score is the median score is the score that's in the middle. So let's check that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The scores are already arranged in ascending order. So median score is the score of the student in the middle, and that total frequency is 5 plus 7, 12, plus 9 is 21, plus 6 is 27, 30, 36, 40 here. So is it the median score is the 20th person's score? And let's see, 5 plus 7 is 12, plus 9 is 21. So that means the 20th person got 4, because 9 students got 4, and the 20th person is one of them. So the median score is the score of that person, which is 4, and that's 4.0 as given in the options. So 28 says find correct one decimal place the mean of the distribution. Mean is summation, mean x bar is summation fx over summation f, and that's simply summation fx is 2 times 5, which is 10, plus 3 times 7, which is 21, plus 4 times 9, which is 36, plus 5 times 6, which is 30, plus 6 times 3, plus 6 times 3, which is 18, plus 7 times 6, 42, plus 8 times 4, 32, all over summation f, which is 40. I need to check to be sure that that's correct. 2 times 5 is 10, 3 times 7 is 21, plus 4 times 9, 36, plus 5 times 6, 30, plus 6 times 3, 18, plus 7 times 6, 42, plus 8 times 4, 32. Now let's add all of that. 10 plus 21 plus 36 plus 30 plus 18 plus 42 plus 32. And we divide the whole of that. That's 189 divided by 40, and that's 4.725, which is approximately 4.7. So the mean of the distribution is therefore 4.7. Straight we go to number 29. If a student is selected at random, what is the probability that she scored at least 6 marks? The probability that a student selected at random scored at least 6 marks is going to be probability that a student selected at random scored at least 60 marks is going to be the probability that it scored at least 6 marks, that she scored at least 6 marks is going to be the probability that the student scored 6 or more. So probability that the student scored at least 6 marks is going to be the same as the probability that she scored 6 or more. That's number of students who scored 6, 7, and 8. That's 3. 3 students scored 6, so that's 3 over 40, plus 6 students scored 7, so 6 over 40, plus 4 students scored 8 over 40. Now I go over that again. The probability that a student selected at random scored at least 6 marks is going to be the probability that she scored 6 or 7 or 8. That means 6 or more. So the probability that a student selected scored 6 marks is going to be the number of students who scored 6 divided by the total number of students, and that's 3 over 40, plus the number of, or in probabilities addition, the number of students who scored 7, which is number of students who scored 7, which is 6 all over total number of students, that's 40. And the probability that a student selected at random scored 8 is going to be number of students who scored 8 divided by the total number of students. So number of students who scored 8 is actually 4. So that's 4 over 40. So 3 over 40 for those who scored 6, 6 over 40 for those who scored 7, and 4 over 40 for those who scored 8. So that's simply 9, 13 over 40. So the probability that a student selected at random scored at least 6 is 13 over 40. And to the next one, which is number 30, express r equals 210 degrees in the form AI plus BJ. I think we just stopped there. We spent quite a number of time. So we continue from there in the next very quickly. We continue from there in the next. Need to go get something very quickly. So catch you in the next, and bye bye.